Welcome back to The Entrepreneur. My name is Joshua Yankovic, and this is a podcast dedicated to people who are looking to make a living doing what they love to do, whether you're already in that process or you haven't even started that process, but you know you want to. This is for you. This podcast is completely on my own, self-produced, so if you would love to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, that'd be awesome. And without further ado, my next guest is Jenna Wilkins. She is a local Kansas Citian who started her business 2 years ago. She's a painter, so she does interior, exterior painting, as well as wallpaper and staining. So I'm super excited to hear from her and get this value on tape for you, the listener, and as well as me. I'm here to learn as much as you are. So without further ado, here's Jenna Wilkins.
I started my painting company about 2 years ago after getting fired from my last job and having no idea how I would have income. And so I just tapped into my desire to be self-employed and the skill set that I had already developed a few years before painting for a different company. And I actually got referred to a business class at UMKC and the Small Business Administration building that they have on campus. And I went through this, I think it was a 4-week course I got a scholarship to attend and just went over a lot of basics for starting a small business. And I usually don't say yes to that type of thing. I thought I knew how to do it, and there was nothing that they could show me or information that I could glean from it. But I just started going to AA and adopted this open-mindedness that I'm really grateful for now, because then I was able to say yes to that opportunity and just get exposure to how to be organized in my vision for working for myself. So after completing the course, I registered a business name, got
And you were going to AA during that time too, you said?
Yeah. It was actually someone in AA that referred me to the course. So I don't know, lots of connections happened for me there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how when and I say we, you and me, because we're both in the program, and it's when I started to take steps to help myself by asking for help, it's funny because I got helped when I got honest and said, I need help. Exactly.
Yeah, just being honest about what's going on and open to people's suggestions. Not just my attitude before definitely would have been whatever you have to say, I'm not interested in.
You would just dismiss it?
But yeah, literally having no other options, I was I'll do anything. I'll go to this class. And it was good. I mean, I had a lot of free time.
And what kind of things did you learn in that business class?
Different organizational structures, I remember the one about social media a lot, and how to generate interest in your business from potential customers. And it was also just good networking and hearing other people talk about their business ideas and budgeting and balance sheets. I didn't know, and I still struggle with
So that, I think to the untrained ear, which is including me, that sounds like a lot, but I know it's probably not that. It's not that much, right? The balance sheets and the accounting kind of jargon. It sounds like more than it is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or isn't it?
I still struggle with it. I mean, they were setting you up to present balance sheets to banks for loans to get your business started, projections of how you anticipate having income over 5 years. Mm-hmm. I was just familiar with this is my revenue, these were my expenses. That was the extent of mine. And I don't know that I could approach a bank right now, but just getting exposed to the idea that there's layers to people's vision, and you need institutional help sometimes to achieve things like buying bigger equipment or whatever you want to achieve in your business.
Was it expensive?
It would have been if I didn't have the scholarship, but I think everyone got a scholarship to go.
Cool. So it's definitely doable for just the average person. Anyone who has the desire to go that route could find the means necessary.
Yeah. There's a lot of resources made available pretty inexpensively.
So you've been self-employed now for how long? A couple of years. So I'd say you're still, and I'm kind of in a similar boat, like in the learning process. What are some things that you've learned that you think are really were aha moments for you?
One thing that's been unfolding the entire time is like my sense of value for my time and the work that I do. So when I started, it was like I was charging so little to do good work. And I've just been incrementally like raising my rates over time. So learning like that I don't have to like debase myself, like, or, give away high quality services for no money, that I can make like a good amount, and not.
Because what you're doing is the work you're providing is worth it.
I didn't realize that at first. I thought that like charging very little would be enough. I mean, I'm also learning more about the true cost of my overhead.
Now, for people who don't know what overhead is, what does that mean?
For me, for my business, it's like the cost of maintaining my vehicle that I drive.
Your expenses.
All over the city, going to different job sites.
Wear on tires, oil, engine, paint, paint brushes.
Equipment. I mean, I've slowly invested in like a paint sprayer, several different ladders, a power washer. So those things, if they break, like I need money set aside to fix them.
And you have to incorporate that into the price of your work.
Right.
Because it's not really if it will happen, but when it will happen, because your overhead will always be there. Yeah. What would you say were some roadblocks other than so that's something you overcame, which was the realizing the value of your work and not undervaluing yourself. How do you think that you came about that realization? Like, what were you doing to help you like realize that?
I made a lot of mistakes and it was very painful. And one of the advantages for me of doing business and being in a 12-step program is that I'm like in constant contact with a sponsor that I'm like telling about I talk to her almost every day about what's going on, and she's like observing, and I'm subjecting my business to this sort of like analysis every day of what's going on and seeing patterns of the same mistakes I'm making over and over, that I did not have before.
Recognizing patterns, negative patterns, cycles of mistakes that you're repeating. Now, for people who don't, that are listening, that don't know what like it means to be an AA and have a sponsor, what's a sponsor's role?
A sponsor's role, that I've learned is to just show another person how to go through the 12 steps.
Someone to be accountable to.
Yeah, they're teaching you how they went through the steps so that you can then show someone else how to go through the steps. And it's just like a way of living day to day. Like that, for me, the steps are something I integrate or try as best as I can into my life every day.
Yeah, that's a good answer. In this whole process of business and entrepreneurship, because you are an entrepreneur, like you've gone down this road and you've learned hard lessons and made mistakes to do more and do better. How important has self-awareness been in that process?
Super important. I mean, I think like a transformation for me is to just see like how I impact outcomes. Because in the past, I would just like want to blame other people and
Right.
like it's the client's fault, you know, that things aren't.
It's always
going
something
well.
external instead of looking inwardly.
Yeah. So self-awareness is like, well, like how am I communicating? What are my expectations? Because those are the only things that I can control.
Right.
So it's really important. And doing it over time, like I'm glad that I've stuck with it, because I've probably made it sound so far that like all I do is make mistakes. But,
no, but that's that, and I've talked about it before with, it's like failure is so important, because it's opportunity. Each failure is an opportunity to move forward, knowing that you made a mistake and can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Like rather than like just wanting to throw up my hands and like leave the job site and leave all my tools, like I'm like, okay, my new attitude is like I'm learning. This is a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that's
Everything is a learning opportunity.
yeah, so that keeps it from being like good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like me contribute to like a negative cycle of thinking about it. I can access gratitude for the experience a lot more easily that way.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really does. What would you say maybe is some advice to someone who is listening, who found this podcast that is trying to learn more about how to be an entrepreneur or how to live a life of freedom, to make money doing what they love to do? Now you've kind of figured out some avenues, some methods to achieve that for yourself. Now, what would you say to someone who might ask you like, well, how do I do this? And how do I do this?
Mm-hmm. I would start by saying yes to opportunities when they present themselves. That's what helped me a lot. I was saying yes to every and all like offer for work, even if it was super tiny project or something. Like that's how I learned how to hang wallpaper. Like I'd never done it before, and someone asked me to do it, and I was just like, yes.
That's really cool. Yeah, so taking those opportunities when they present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you just basically just stopped negotiating with yourself on saying you couldn't do it, and you said, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Like,
is that true to say?
Yeah.
Is that you stopped caring whether or not you felt like you could, and you started doing it?
Mm-hmm. I started to trust myself that either I would be able to figure it out, because I'm, an intelligent person and a critical thinker or whatever. And if I failed, that wouldn't be the end of the world. So developing like a willingness to take risks and just add to my skill set and my experience, not limiting myself to just doing like one thing that I thought I was already good at.
That's really good. I feel like that's the answer is, again, do more.
Well, yeah. And I also the saying yes thing is also about like, I don't know where this could lead. Because so much of my work too is about networking and referrals. So when I do work for one person, like I don't know who else that might like lead to. So saying yes to projects also meant saying yes to relationships with people that might grow in directions that I couldn't like predict. So it was like opening myself up to more opportunities rather than what I was used to before, which was just like being closed-minded, like only staying in this narrow lane of things I thought that I should be doing. Opening myself up.
Now, was that scary to do that at first?
Yeah, yes, it's still scary for me because I really don't want to disappoint people. And so the prospect of failing is hard for me. And I don't want like people to, just be disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's a common fear. I think everyone deals with that on some level. What are you doing to let that go?
It's hard. I struggle with it with almost every project.
Me too. Me too. I always undervalue, and because I'm early in the process of business and business negotiation and negotiating contracts and figuring out values for each itemized part of a project, talking to me about, the price of what's the price of this? I don't know the price of videography for this project over here. And then that leaves it with me having to educate them. And I had, in not too long ago, had a really good conversation with someone who was like recommending, like, well, you need to do consulting fees. Like, you have to value your time. If you're going to educate someone on not knowing what they need to pay you, they need to pay you for it. And I was like, that's huge. Like, I had not thought of that. Right. And so it's just like, not itemizing, but getting to that point where I'm like confident in my work. So I know that I know the value I bring, but then knowing how to navigate that in the actual business world on paper, because I know the product I can provide, the service I can provide is top notch, as far as I can tell, and as far as people tell me it is. So I know it's there, but the business side of things, with being on paper, contracts, negotiations, that's the part where I'm at right now, is learning how to navigate that realm.
Do you compete with other people? Like, do your potential clients get bids for their creative projects from lots of different people, or is it just you?
I think they might look for more than one person, but not for me. No, not in a competitive sense. I'm not aware of anyone else in this vicinity of like this project. Like, if someone's coming to me with a project, it's because they've seen my work or they've heard of my work, and they're looking to find out what I charge. And so I have to let them know. And like I've had clients, and it's been frustrating because I've had clients in the past not know anything about what creative work costs: videography, photography, websites, marketing, advertising, all of it. Blog writing. Like, they're not aware of like what the actual costs are and like what people are charging in the rest of the world. And so they're looking to me to like educate them. And I, like I said, like realize like, okay, well, I need to, if I'm going to educate you too, like you have to pay me for, that's time. That's my time and energy. And then like, I like what you talked about earlier. I was like, learning to value your time, because time is money. Like, that's a silly statement, but it's so true. Hitting home with the getting to know my own value and being firm with boundaries on it. And that leads me to this next point, or next topic that I want to talk about with you, which is boundaries. And how, because it sounds like you've had to develop boundaries with clients and customers and with yourself, and hold those boundaries in order to progress as a businesswoman and a service that you provide. So do you want to talk about that a little bit, with like how boundaries have been huge for you? And because I know they have for me, so I could talk about it too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like one boundary that I've tried to implement is not working on the weekends, because especially during the summer, there's no running out of work or anything like that. So and because my work is kind of seasonal, like things definitely slow down in the winter, I have this sense of urgency and this like impending sense of financial insecurity that I need to like get all this work done during the summer in the warm months so that I'm not uncomfortable in the winter. But then I'm like working on the weekends and late at night, and like that doesn't feel good either. So
Yeah.
a huge boundary for me is like sticking to just working like regular hours, which before I thought like the flexibility of being self-employed was that my schedule could be whatever So it's ironic that now I'm like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday sounds good. But, and another boundary is for me, like I start working on a project for clients and then they want to add more work because they are happy with how things are going, and then they're wanting to like expand the scope of work, which was not part of the original estimate. And so developing a way to add that where I'm not undervaluing myself, or I'm not getting taken advantage of. And those two things are things that I like still am trying to get a handle on implementing. But they're like the common ones that pop up for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how humans, like, we test each other's boundaries unconsciously. Mm-hmm. Like one of the clients I've booked recently asked me for the price, and I was like, okay, what's your budget? And they were like, still didn't give me the budget, and then I threw a number out and said, well, for what you've mentioned so far, here's the number I have in mind. And they came back with, oh, well, can I also get this, and this? And I had to be like, no, for like I just said, like, for what you've talked about, this was the number. So now that number's obsolete if you want to do all this other stuff. And so they were like, well, okay, then I'll just go with that number and the other stuff instead of opting to do more, which would have been better for them. Obviously more expensive, but again, like I underbid, so it's still like a really reasonable price, very, very reasonable price. And I had to establish, like, and looking back at that whole thing about boundaries is like, they were just seeing what my boundaries were. And it wasn't malicious, or like they weren't trying to like try to get something out of me. They were just testing boundaries, seeing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me with relationships as well, like friendships and just meeting people in general, like even strangers, or even not strangers, people that know you or that know me, that will come back and test my boundaries. And it's like, oh, I've updated my boundaries since you last came around. And realizing that is so important and so valuable, and it helps maintain my peace. My peace and joy is so much more concrete if I maintain those boundaries with everyone, including clients and friends and family. And it's just I never would have thought that a huge issue and problem in my life for me and my brain was not having boundaries. And because I didn't have good boundaries with myself, I crossed boundaries with everybody else. Like, so it's like testing people, not knowing I was doing it, but crossing boundaries with friends. Like, I mean, I would meet other artists and I would right away see how much I could work with them and do something with them, and like, oh, we could do this, like I can do videos, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. And then I would tell them all that, crossing all these boundaries is like, they didn't even ask. And I'm crossing all these boundaries and we don't even know each other that well. And it's like, it's one thing to know me and know that I have a good heart and care and want to provide great things for other people, because I believe that I live in abundance now. And if I help other people, if I bring up other people, it brings up me too. And going back to the boundaries though, is like, they don't, like, the boundaries are for everyone's benefit, for me and for another person. So like, if I'm crossing someone else's boundaries, it's because I don't have those boundaries on myself, and meaning I would allow someone else to cross those boundaries with me. It's a detriment to both parties not having boundaries.
Yeah, I am learning recently, like, the idea that if people don't accept my bid, that's not the end of the world. Like, I think my approach to doing estimates and stuff starting out was like, what would they say yes to? But I heard recently that, especially in my industry, like it's normal to only get 10% of the projects you bid.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, if you're getting all yeses, you're not charging enough.
Right. So I'm learning that. So getting comfortable. And again, it's like, since I don't want to disappoint people, like, or that's the fear for me, getting comfortable with giving an estimate and then them saying no, thank you. It's been challenging for me, but that's the sign of like growth and establishing good boundaries for me.
Wow. It's awesome, right? Doesn't it feel good though to maintain boundaries?
Yeah, because then when I am working on a project that I bid accurately, like there's no resentments about it. Like everyone's on the same page. Like there's no secrets about things going over budget. And yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the power of positivity and how important it is. And let's talk about it in the sense of who you're around and the energy that you're around on a regular basis. Now, Gary Vee talks about this, like if you are hanging out with negative people, you're gonna be negative, and that's not even necessarily his wisdom alone, but you become like those you associate with. And so, and as a matter of positivity, like, do you find yourself like who are the people that you hang out with, and what kind of things do you pick up from them?
Lately, I mostly hang out with people in AA who are like working their programs.
Okay, so like, perfect. So you're working with people, or you're around people who are actively pursuing self-improvement. Do you think that like how much of an effect does that have on you? Like,
it has a huge effect. I mean, I think understanding my circumstances as being a product of my perspective is new, and I need constantly reinforced.
Would you say like mentality creates reality in that sense then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
but your mentality is affected by what's in your reality. So the people who are you're around, which you can control who you are around. You can't control people, but you control who you're around.
mm-hmm.
So it's like it's a cycle of that. So in that matter of positivity, what kind of things do you look for?
I try to project positivity. Like I'm experiencing it recently with trying to hire helpers and people to like work on projects with me. And I think I'm quick to see what's wrong and have a critical eye. But when I'm employing or managing someone, I'm realizing that that's not very helpful. Like I just need to be able to identify their strengths and, make it a comfortable work environment so that they have good morale. So learning how to do that and like having an awareness of it, because I could very easily just focus on like, what is my expectation? Is it getting met or not? And go from there. But now I'd say my approach is more like, how do I cultivate a work environment where the person helping me can do their best? So that seems like deeply embedded in.
So that's how you help improve your environment with positivity. How does other people around you improve your perspective?
I mean, I'm
so like people in the program.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's because they're sharing. Like I can hear other people's perspectives and other people's opinions and realize, wow, like I had such a small part of it, and now I've heard more of the truth of any given matter, like any given topic. And realize, oh wow, like I only had a small part, or
mm-hmm.
wow, I, was looking at it from the wrong point of view,
mm-hmm.
and recognizing like being positive about that realization and not negative, not resenting that there was more that I didn't know. Because in my opinion, like, realizing that I don't know more means I know more. And I actually love it. Like, I love going to meetings because of the environment, because like I said, like before, like, it's everyone in the room for the most part is seeking to improve themselves because they know they've had a problem. They're coming for help. And so we're all coming for help, and we're all in the same mindset to say, let's get better in some way or another. And that alone is so positive. Like, you can't, it would take a very hurt person to walk away from a single meeting and not having taken something positive from it.
Yeah, it's a super unique environment because no one has to be there, or everyone's there voluntarily, you know, and they're all working towards making their lives different than it used to be. And so there's a lot of hope. Yeah, and just showing up is the only requirement.
Yeah. I think something I heard the other day was interesting. Is like, part of the steps is accepting that your life is unmanageable. And there's people that come into the program that are millionaires, that have everything financially great, but they're unhappy. Their relationships are not good. All kinds of things are wrong with their life. And so that's where you get the unmanageable part. Being successfully or financially successful doesn't mean anything. It's worthless. If you're not happy, if you're not internally like at peace and producing your own joy, which is a side effect of trying to get better and as a person, self-improvement and working steps to get better. It's a side effect of that. And I'm so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to go to meetings and experience the fact that I'm not so great. Like, I'm not, like, there's so much more to life and there's so much more to do than just like seemingly function. Like, I'm not trying to just function. I'm trying to thrive. And maybe it's not a program like AA for you, but there's so much more to be had in life than just financial success. Like, you want that internal peace, that real true joy in the inside that doesn't get affected by other people, then there's ways to do that. There's ways to get there. It just starts with the step to being honest with yourself, right? And accepting that your life is unmanageable. And not unmanageable as in like, oh, I can't get my bills paid, but that could be it. That could be one of the things. But it's the internal like peace and the boundaries, and it's all wrapped up into the one package.
Yeah, my sponsor tells me that AA is not a program of self-improvement. It's a program of self-acceptance.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, that's, I think, what I'm headed towards. Like, for me, like at work the last 2 weeks, like everything is going wrong, but I'm like,
wow,
it's fine. Like, I'm not worried about it. And the freedom from that worry is like what I'm looking for. Because even if, things were going perfectly, like I would potentially find something or like anticipate something going wrong. But finding that peace of mind is huge.
Right. No, I love that. It's accepting yourself, because the more you accept yourself, the more you do improve. Because it hurts. It really hurts. Accepting yourself hurts because there's so much of us that is not okay. There's so much of me that's not okay. And like, this year has been so painful, but also so beautiful because I've grown so much by accepting myself. The side effect of that is self-improvement. So I love that perspective, though. That changing of words is really, really crucial, I think. And I am going to start saying that from now on. Is this like, it's not a program of self-improvement. It's like self-acceptance. Because the improvement part just comes as a side effect. The acceptance part is what the actual program's about. Yeah. Because the more you understand yourself, the more you understand everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's same thing with boundaries. Like the more boundaries you have in yourself, the more you're able to maintain boundaries with other people and recognize other people's boundaries and not cross them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more boundaries equals more freedom.
Yeah, it really does. It really, really does.
Ironically.
So this brings me to our next part of the podcast, where I ask you, what would your future self, maybe 10 years, or maybe just the best version of you that you could even possibly imagine, if they walked up to you and had advice for you at this given moment of your life, of where you're at, what you're dealing with, everything, what would they say to you?
Definitely take care of your body, because what I do is so physical, and I don't think it'll take very long for that to start wearing on me. To not undervalue myself. Yeah, so learning to ask for help is a big part of that. Like I've had to pay people just to hold a ladder, like stand at the bottom and hold the ladder. But if I didn't do that, I was putting myself in like a really dangerous spot.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Keep yourself safe.
Yeah,
physically.
So getting over the pride of wanting to do everything by myself and take risks.
So your future self would say, keep doing good, stop, or keep taking care of your body.
Yeah, take care of your body. Stop undervaluing yourself. And there was a third.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted before you got there.
It's okay. Make time for more free time. Because I veer into the workaholism where I'm just like so focused on it that I don't like hang out with people.
Yeah.
Or go on vacations. So I need to switch around those values, those priorities.
So your future self would walk up to you and be like, hey, first of all, how's it going? And then they'd say, and then they wouldn't say that. They know how it's going. She knows how it's going. She already knows. So she would say, yo, take care of your body better. Value yourself and your time more. And what was the other one?
That might be the same as prioritize free time.
Prioritize free time. So yeah, that's like self-care. So get up on that self-care, and I mean really all of those were self-care. So I was like, focus on self-care. And that's really good, because that applies to me too. My future self would definitely speak on that. And I think that you listening would probably have your future best self say that too. For me, my future self would walk up to me and be like, now that you're getting like a part of what is to come, like, don't be discouraged when there's gonna be more drawbacks, because there will be, because life is not always up, as you've already experienced. Keep going and don't give up, and press more into the discomfort of being scared to do more when it's not gonna, like, the worst that could happen is that you get your feelings hurt, which, as you know, isn't that big of a deal in the long run. That's what my future self would say. Mm-hmm. And then, in addition to, get on that self-care train a little more.
Yeah, I really like reframing things in terms of like, what's the fear? I find that super helpful, because that can be overcome.
Yeah, one thing, I started running regularly, and I've just stopped negotiating with myself on whether or not it was an option. So like I'll let myself do one day and accept one day of not doing it. But if I have already done that one day in the week of not running, I will not let myself negotiate out of it. I will say, I don't want to do it. Oh my gosh, I don't want to go running right now. And then I will immediately say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I don't want to. I'm gonna do it, no matter what time of the day it is. It's gonna happen at one point or another. And I'm a procrastinator, so I've been doing it late at night at like 11:30. Like the other Friday, the other night running at like 12 a.m. Which is so bad for the next day, with less sleep. But I'm done negotiating with myself on whether or not I'm going to take action to improve and do better and keep myself on a steady track. Like you've seen like stock graphs, like, well, they're always up and down. Okay, but I'm going to keep my life on a steady up, even though there's going to be some dips, some lows. They're not going to go there. I'm not going to allow them. I'm not negotiating with myself, allowing me to stay down. Like, it's going to continue to rise. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. The trend is up.
Yeah, there you go. The trend. That's right. Excuse me. The trend. That's what it is. It's an upward trend.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Discipline is so important. And, I'm grateful for AA because, like, yeah, it's become part of my work so much, but like getting a lot of practice from making amends and stuff and showing up for things even when I didn't want to. Like, I get a lot of practice in that in AA, and then that makes it easier at work and in other parts of my life. That running is a good one.
Yeah, it's just really just that I stopped negotiating with myself. And the same thing with my sobriety. Like, I stopped negotiating with myself on whether or not staying sober was an option. Staying sober is the only option. And I'm not allowing myself to think of anything else in that regard.
Right. For today. Yeah.
Yeah. For right now and today.
I feel like one thing I'm wanting to point out is that, like, painting houses is not my passion, but running my business is.
That's really cool.
So I find things about it that I love, like working outdoors or all the different clients I get to meet and all the personalities and kind of like seeing how they live. Like, I find things about it that I really value, even though, like, the thing that I do, the actual labor, can be tedious or whatever. So that's helped, like, me maintain a positive attitude about it and see, like, that I'm developing skills that can be transmutable to, like, other things. Like, I'm kind of interested in home building as a long-term thing. So I'm just trying to, like, use what I do today to pick up on anything that might help me in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you're doing now, like running a business and everything you're learning, is transferable to other businesses.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I know I've seen people and known of people who, just running businesses, like you said, like yourself, was their passion, and they've had run various different businesses in different industries. Like, it wasn't tied into their passion of running a business wasn't tied into one specific industry. Like, they could run a business for many years, make it successful, sell it, buy another business, and do that same thing over and over again. So it's like, you know how people flip houses, flip cars, flip, garage sale items. Well, you could flip businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, I didn't get bogged down into just, like, thinking, like, what am I passionate about? How do I turn that into a business? It's like, how do I become passionate about what I'm able to do today?
Now, so final question or final thought for you. How did you figure out that you were passionate about something, about business?
I think I just stopped thinking about it and showed up and was present with what was happening, rather than like having an expectation of how it was supposed to be, and just like being open-minded to how it actually is. But in other jobs, I sort of gleaned from the other work experience that I've had, like what parts of it I liked, and was like, had no, I guess, passion.
So did you try many things?
I've
And
worked
that
in
led
a
you
lot
to-
of industries.
So, okay, so there's the key right there.
Yeah.
Because and that's, you figured out your passion by trying a lot of different things.
Sure.
See, I think a lot of people hold themselves back, including me. I've held myself back from doing more. I have done quite a few things, and that's how I found out that I loved cameras. I loved creative work. But I would not have figured that out if I didn't try a whole lot of different things and a different, so I knew I liked creative things. Well, I did all kinds of things. Like art is in everything. So like I worked on a tomato farm. That was art. As in the art of picking tomatoes. Did the construction, like just all kinds of different things. Like that included restaurant industries and different businesses and just working with people. But I would have not figured out that I was passionate about one thing if I hadn't tried a bunch of different things.
Right.
So if you're listening and that camera's still rolling, don't hold yourself back from just trying something, even if you know it's temporary. There's nothing holding you back except you. And it applies to me too. Well, Jenna, this has been awesome. I knew it would be cool to hear from your perspective. And what's really awesome about this podcast is that it's always pleasantly surprising to hear from people and I don't know you extremely well. So it's really cool to have learned a little bit about you and learned from you. And I hope that you listening are also in that same boat where you got some good value out of this podcast. And again, thank you so much for coming up and having the time and willingness to express yourself on camera. It's awesome. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. For you out there listening, thank you for tuning in as well. And I'll catch you next time. This is the Entreprenhour.